Hello everybody, Felix here, and I wanted to make a bit of a different video than what I normally do. By the way, you can play this in the background and do other things since the visuals are just going to be random pressure footage, so they're not important. Anyways, I just wanted to make a video talking about the fact I'm autistic and what some of my own experiences with it are like. I haven't exactly hidden the fact I'm autistic on my channel, and there's plenty of videos where I mention it in passing, but I've never really made a full video about it, so here's that video now. By the way, this entire video is me reading off of a script, so if I sound off to you while I read this, then congratulations on noticing my autism. I will make no effort to sound more normal to you because I'm not going to hide my disability to be more palatable. Also, I want to make it pretty clear that I have low to medium support needs. I know a lot of autistic representation online is only geared towards exclusively low support needs people, but I actually need a bit more support than that. If you don't know what that entails, I'm technically able to live alone, but without frequent supervision and check-ins, I would live a significantly reduced quality of life and struggle to properly care for myself. Basically, I'd survive, but I wouldn't thrive. With that clarified, here's some things I need support with. The first thing I'm going to talk about is everyday interactions with strangers. Even if I'm just buying groceries and need to talk to an employee for help, this is nearly impossible for me to do. Sometimes I end up unable to speak during the interaction, and other times I'm able to get some short sentences and words out. On a good day, I can at least get the words out to say exactly what I need, even if my tone and cadence sound off to everyone else. This also means I can't work jobs that require frequent interactions with new people. Trust me, I've tried, and I had a meltdown in like an hour. To accommodate this, I like to bring someone with me in public who can either speak to me directly to ask for my needs, or read out something I've written for them to repeat to someone else. I also communicate by pointing at what I want if it's something I can point to. And of course, I also work a job that has very little interactions with strangers. Speaking of jobs, that's another struggle of mine. If I work several days in a row, it can lead to burnout and shutdowns before the week is even over, since I need resting days during the week. That means full-time work isn't really sustainable for me, so I work part-time instead. Also, if you want to know what that looked like when I was in school and didn't have this luxury, I was considered a problematic student due to my frequent meltdowns and shutdowns in the middle of class. Something else I struggle with is rigidity and promises other people give me. I don't really care what exactly was promised to me, but if it isn't followed through exactly how it was promised, I get very upset. Even if I was given something better than promised, I still get very upset because it wasn't exactly what I was told I was getting. Unfortunately, people I don't know won't realize this is a need they should accommodate for. However, people who actually know me can accommodate this by either making it clear that plans might change, or that what they're telling me isn't perfectly set in stone. As long as I'm told up front that I might not get exactly what I was told I'm getting, I don't get upset. Of course, the more someone changes plans on me last minute, the less I'll believe their words to begin with, but this accommodation is about things out of the person's control or other circumstances that might change things despite their best efforts to give me what they said they would. And yes, this has ended friendships before. A part of my autism that people seem to dislike is the fact I have low empathy. While I'm usually okay enough at identifying what emotions someone is feeling, I very rarely actually feel that emotion as well. I didn't even realize I was supposed to actually feel the emotions of others until I was an adult, and until then, I assumed people were being metaphorical with phrases like, "I'm excited for you," or "I feel really bad that didn't work out for you." Even to my closest friends, I very rarely feel any of their positive or negative emotions for myself. I try to stay away from using "I feel" statements about other situations since it's basically me lying, and I also make it very clear that I can't offer any emotional support because I literally don't feel their emotions. Instead, I try to fix problems when my friends vent to me, or I neutrally congratulate them on good news because it's, well, objectively good. And no, this doesn't mean I'm completely incapable of emotions or only think with logic. My emotions are just rarely influenced by others' feelings, and I've also made plenty of decisions that were driven entirely by emotion. Of course, I also have struggles outside of socializing with others. For example, I cannot drive. I spent months trying to learn how, but I just can't seem to grasp even the basic concepts of controlling a car like accelerating and steering. It was causing me lots of meltdowns, which were really unsafe for me and others when I was still behind the wheel, so I stopped trying to learn how because it was pretty clearly not going to work. Instead, I either have someone else drive me where I need to go, or I use other methods of transportation like walking. I also struggle a lot with tasks related to hygiene. If I'm not prompted, I can go several days without bathing or brushing my teeth. I also struggle with basic tasks like doing my laundry, and until I was an older teenager, I needed to be given step-by-step instructions and be supervised every time I did laundry. I can do all of these tasks independently now, but I hit those milestones extremely late in my life, and I still usually need to be prompted to do them. For a more complicated task like cooking, I very rarely do this myself. However, I can cook my own basic meals if I'm shown how to make it a few times and always have exact written instructions to refer to. Sometimes I also need to be supervised when I'm cooking, but this is pretty rare. Another issue I have only happens on occasion because it's related to sensory seeking. Usually I'm sensory avoidant, but sometimes I become sensory seeking. When I'm sensory seeking, I need to have intense experiences like flashing lights, loud noises, adrenaline rushes, and more. Usually I'm able to meet this just fine by playing a game like Will You Snail, or even going somewhere in person that offers those kinds of experiences, but if I still end up understimulated, I can get really upset. Of course, I can still get overstimulated when I'm sensory avoidant, but this happens less often because I'm better at knowing how to manage being sensory avoidant and have more accommodations readily available. I still have more struggles and support needs than the ones I've shared in this video, but that's a pretty good picture of the kind of life I live. If you have respectful questions in the comments, I will do my best to answer them. But if you ask me something clearly meant to be disrespectful, I'm just going to ignore you. Anyways, that's all for this video, so I will see you in the next one.